This is Elian Rowe, broadcasting on 91.1 FM. If you can hear me through the static, through the endless roar outside your walls, then you know you're not alone. Day 1,247 of the eternal winds. That's 3 years, 4 months, and 12 days since the last recorded calm. I sometimes wonder if anyone out there remembers what silence sounds like. Real silence. Not the muffled quiet we create inside our sealed spaces. My audio equipment picks up the storm at 75 decibels today. That's considered a quiet day. The dust outside my window isn't falling. It never falls anymore. It flows horizontally, sometimes even upward in the vortexes, like a river that's forgotten which way gravity points. Right now it's brown with streaks of red. Topsoil from the American heartland mixed with iron oxide from somewhere far away. Yesterday it was gray. Tomorrow, who knows? The storms carry the whole world past our doors. You learn to read the dust like ancient peoples read the stars. Each color tells a story, carries a message from places we can no longer reach. The yellow dust means the Sahara contribution is high today. The black specks are volcanic ash from increased activity along the Pacific Ring. The white powder that comes every few weeks, that's salt from dried ocean beds, though the scientists debate which ones. I'm watching the pressure gauge on my wall as I speak to you. 890 millibars and falling. That means Catherine is approaching. She's one of 7 major storm systems that circle our planet now, as regular as the old trade winds, but 1,000 times more powerful. Catherine will be directly overhead in about 6 hours, and she'll bring winds of 220 kilometers per hour. In the old world, we'd call that a Category 4 hurricane. The transformation happened so gradually that we almost didn't notice at first. The dust storms were getting worse, lasting longer, covering more ground, but we kept thinking each one would be the last. Even when they started connecting, forming chains across continents, we told ourselves it was temporary. The atmosphere would settle, the winds would die down. They didn't. My shelter shakes slightly as I speak. That's normal. Everything shakes now. The engineers call it harmonic vibration from the constant wind pressure. I call it the planet's new heartbeat. You get used to it, the way sailors got used to the rocking of ships. Though sometimes I wake at night, and for just a moment, the stillness of my bed feels wrong. People ask me how we've adapted, and the answer is in 1,000 small ways. Take something as simple as walking. You can't walk upright in the wind anymore, not if you want to stay upright. Everyone moves at a 15-degree forward lean now, minimum. 20 degrees if you're carrying supplies. Your body becomes a wedge, cutting through the air instead of fighting it. Our clothes have evolved too. The old world fashion of loose flowing garments would get you killed now. Everything is tight, streamlined, with no edges for the wind to catch. The outer layer is typically made from graphene mesh, tough enough to resist the constant sandblasting. Underneath, we wear positive pressure suits that keep filtered air flowing outward through the fabric, preventing dust infiltration. But it's not just about keeping dust out, it's about keeping ourselves in. The psychological pressure of living in a constantly howling world is something we're still learning to manage. Some people can't take it. They develop what we call storm fever, a kind of claustrophobia mixed with agoraphobia. They can't stand being trapped inside, but they're terrified of going out. I've found that routine helps. Every morning I check my seals, all 47 of them, in the same order, every single day. Window seals, door seals, ventilation seals, cable entry seals. Each one gets inspected, tested, and if necessary, repaired. It takes me 90 minutes. It's meditation and survival rolled into one. The dust isn't just an inconvenience, it's a killer. The particles are so fine they can pass through traditional filters. We're talking about pieces of earth ground down to less than 2.5 micrometers. They get into your lungs and stay there. We've all developed what the doctors call the dust cough, a dry, persistent hack that never quite goes away. But we've learned to fight back. Every inhabited space now has multiple stages of air filtration. First, the electromagnetic barriers that repel charged particles, then the cyclonic separators that spin out the heavier dust. Finally, the biofilters, living mats of engineered bacteria that consume particles and exhale clean oxygen. The air inside tastes different than it used to, slightly sweet from the bacterial process, but it won't kill you. Water is another challenge entirely. The old methods of collection don't work when your rain is mud and your snow is dust. We've had to get creative. Every settlement has fog nets now, massive constructions that look like spider webs made of metal mesh. They extract moisture from the dust-laden air through condensation. On a good day, a 100 square meter net can collect 50 liters. But the real innovation has been in recycling. We've become obsessed with closed loops. Every drop of water that enters our habitats is used, cleaned, and used again. Shower water becomes drinking water, becomes hydroponic nutrient solution, becomes shower water again. The engineers joke that we're drinking the same water molecules our great-grandparents did. They're probably right. Food has changed too. Forget about fresh vegetables from outdoor gardens. Everything grows inside now under carefully controlled conditions. The greenhouses are more like bunkers, built to withstand the constant battering. LED lights replace the sun, filtered through dust-proof skylights when possible. We grow what grows fast and dense. Microgreens, mushrooms, algae, anything that maximizes calories per square meter. The social dynamics have shifted in interesting ways. Privacy is a luxury when everyone lives in sealed communities. We've had to relearn how to be human in close quarters. Some settlements have mandatory alone time, scheduled hours where everyone retreats to their personal space. Others have gone the opposite direction, embracing communal living completely. Children born after the storms began are different. They've never known a world without the constant howl, and to them, it's not traumatic. It's just background noise. They play games that incorporate wind resistance, learn physics through practical experience. A 7-year-old here can calculate wind load on a structure faster than most old-world engineers. These children don't flinch at the sound of dust hitting windows like we do. They don't unconsciously hold their breath when checking door seals. The storm world is their normal, and watching them adapt gives me hope. Humans are remarkably plastic creatures. We shape ourselves to our environment, even when that environment seems hostile to life itself. The storms have changed our language too. We have dozens of new words for different types of dust, wind patterns, seal failures. A whisper day is when the wind drops below 60 kilometers per hour. A screamer is anything over 250. Dust drunk describes the disorientation from breathing too much unfiltered air. Seal tight has replaced sleep tight as our nightly farewell. Communication between settlements relies on a network of relay stations, each one maintained by dedicated engineers who venture out between the worst storm surges. Radio waves get scattered by the dust, so we use specific frequencies that penetrate better. 91.1 megahertz is one of the clearer channels, though even now you can probably hear the static eating at my words. We've learned that the storms follow patterns, predictable if you collect enough data. The global atmospheric circulation has reorganized itself into these massive permanent cyclones. They're like hurricanes that never make landfall, never dissipate, just circle endlessly around the planet. We track them, name them, learn their personalities. Besides Catherine, there's Magnus in the northern hemisphere, a beast that brings the coldest dust from what used to be the Arctic. Julia follows a figure-8 pattern between continents, carrying biological material that sometimes includes viable seeds. We get excited when Julia passes. Once, she brought us tomato seeds from somewhere in South America. The night storms are different from day storms. Without solar heating, the winds often intensify, but the dust composition changes. More ice crystals, fewer minerals. The sound changes too, higher pitched, almost musical. Some nights, if you listen carefully, you can hear harmonics in the wind, like the planet is singing a lament. Sleep is something we've all had to relearn. The first year, nobody slept well. The constant noise, the vibrations, the knowledge that only a few centimeters of wall separate you from an environment that wants to strip the flesh from your bones. But humans adapt. We always adapt. Now I sleep better during storms than during those rare, unsettling lulls. We've developed new architecture for this new world. Buildings aren't rectangular anymore. Everything is curved, aerodynamic, designed to let wind flow around rather than slam against. The old world skyscrapers would be sandblasted to nothing in months. Our structures hunker down, presenting minimal surface area to the storms. Some settlements have gone further, building into hillsides or creating artificial berms. Not underground exactly, but earth-sheltered. The dust can't abrade what it can't reach. These communities look like hobbit holes designed by aerospace engineers, all smooth curves and reinforced entries. Personal hygiene in a dust world requires constant vigilance. We shower in sealed units with multi-stage drains to prevent system clogs. Hair is kept short or tightly bound. Beards are a liability. Every piece of clothing gets ultrasonic cleaning to remove embedded particles. We've become a civilization of the fastidiously clean, not by choice, but by necessity. Medical care has evolved to handle constant respiratory challenges. Every settlement has what we call lung washers, devices that help clear accumulated dust from airways. They're used weekly by most adults, daily by those who work outside. The procedure isn't pleasant, but it beats the alternative of slowly suffocating on particles of earth. Mental health support has become as critical as physical health. The isolation, the constant environmental pressure, the loss of the world we knew, it takes a toll. We have more therapists per capita now than ever before in human history. They help us process grief for blue skies, for open spaces, for the simple act of taking a deep breath without fear. But it's not all darkness and survival. Humans find joy even in the strangest circumstances. We have dust artists who create temporary sculptures in the electromagnetic fields, visible for moments before the wind claims them. Musicians have learned to incorporate the storm sounds into their compositions, creating a new form of music that would sound like chaos to old world ears, but resonates with us. We celebrate differently now. Holidays aren't tied to seasons that no longer exist in any meaningful way. Instead, we mark the passages of the major storms, the successful harvests from our sealed greenhouses, the births of children who will never know any world but this one. Each celebration is an act of defiance against a planet that seems to want us gone. Technology hasn't just helped us survive, it's helped us thrive. Virtual reality systems let us experience memories of the old world, walk through forests that exist now only as data, swim in oceans that are now dust bowls. Some say it's unhealthy, this clinging to the past. I say it's necessary. We need to remember what we're working to preserve, even if we can never return to it. The economy has restructured itself around scarcity and skill. Currency is often measured in breathable hours, how long a filter lasts, how much power your shelter can generate, how many calories your greenhouse produces. The wealthy aren't those with the most money, but those with the most reliable life support systems. Education continues because it must. Children learn history, including the history of how we got here. They study the old world's mistakes alongside new world survival skills. Every child can repair a seal, calculate wind load, and identify dust types by color and texture. But they also read Shakespeare, solve calculus, and debate philosophy. We're not just trying to survive, we're trying to remain human. Romance hasn't died in the dust. If anything, it's intensified. When you might be the last generation, when every day outside could be your last, love becomes urgent. People bond quickly, deeply. Weddings happen in the brief lulls between storm systems. Honeymoons are spent maintaining each other's life support systems. It's practical and passionate in equal measure. We've learned that hope isn't about expecting things to get better. It's about making the best of what is. Every sealed greenhouse that produces food, every child who learns to read, every joke shared over rationed coffee, these are acts of hope. We're not waiting for the storms to end. We're learning to dance with the wind. The dust outside my window is shifting color again. More yellow now, with threads of white. Salt and sand, a combination that means the storm is drawing from multiple sources, probably intensifying. My instruments confirm it. Pressure dropping faster now, wind speed increasing. Catherine is coming in stronger than predicted. But I'm not afraid. None of us are anymore, not really. Fear was for the early days when we thought this was temporary, when every storm might be the last. Now we know better. This is our world now, and we're adapting to it day by day, seal by seal, breath by filtered breath. In an hour, I'll shut down this transmission to conserve power for the storm passage. I'll check my seals one more time, activate the secondary filters, and settle in to wait. Maybe I'll read a book, or work on my hydroponic tomatoes, or simply listen to the wind and try to hear the music in it. Tomorrow, if the relays hold, I'll be back. Same frequency, same time, because as long as there are voices in the storm, we're still here. Still human, still hoping. This is Alian Rowe, signing off from 91.1 FM. Keep your seals tight, your filters clean, and remember, we're all in this storm together. Until tomorrow, stay safe in the howl. This is Alian Rowe, back with you on 91.1 FM. The storm passed overhead 3 hours ago, and I've made my way to Greenhouse Complex Delta. If you're wondering why I'd risk traveling in the tailwinds of Catherine, well, sometimes you need to see hope with your own eyes to properly share it with others. I'm standing in the entrance chamber now, waiting for the decontamination cycle to complete. The dust levels here read 4,000 parts per million. That's actually good for post-storm conditions. The UV lights are running their cycle, killing any biological contaminants that might have hitchhiked on the dust. In 2 minutes, the air jets will blast away the loose particles. Then I can enter the complex proper. The term greenhouse doesn't do these structures justice. Imagine a fortress designed by botanists, built by engineers who understood that every gap could mean starvation. The outer walls are 2 meters thick, made from compressed regolith, bonded with a polymer that actually gets stronger under abrasion. The constant sandblasting that would destroy old-world buildings just makes these walls more resilient. The decontamination cycle is finishing now. I can hear the inner door seals releasing. The pressure difference makes my ears pop. Inside, the air smells different immediately. Green. Alive. It's a smell I'd almost forgotten existed. Marcus Thompson meets me at the inner door. He's the lead agricultural engineer here, though he prefers the term dust farmer. His hands are stained purple today from working with the anthocyanin-enhanced potatoes they're developing. Even his greeting is practical. No handshake, those spread contaminants. Instead, he offers me a mask that smells faintly of mint, their latest innovation in biological air filtration. The first thing that strikes you inside a growing complex is the sound. Outside, we live with the constant howl. In here, it's replaced by the hum of circulation fans, the gurgle of hydroponic systems, the gentle rustle of leaves. It's almost overwhelming after the monotony of wind. Marcus leads me through the primary growing hall. The ceiling stretches up 4 stories, every level packed with growing systems. But these aren't the neat rows of traditional farming. Everything is vertical, spiral, maximized for three-dimensional space. Plants grow in towers, in rotating drums, in carefully calculated patterns that maximize light exposure while minimizing footprint. The lighting is perhaps the most ingenious part. Yes, they use LED arrays tuned to specific wavelengths for photosynthesis, but they've also installed what Marcus calls light pipes. These are fiber optic cables that run to the roof, where specialized collectors gather what little sunlight penetrates the dust. Even on the darkest days, they can supplement the artificial lighting with real solar radiation, processed and distributed where it's needed most. But here's what makes the dust farmers true innovators. They're not trying to recreate the old world's agriculture. They're inventing something entirely new. Take their growing medium. Traditional soil is impossible in a sealed environment. It harbors too many unknowns, requires too much processing. Instead, they use manufactured substrates made from processed dust. Marcus shows me the substrate production area. It's alchemy in the truest sense. They take the dust that threatens all life, run it through magnetic separators to remove iron particles, chemical baths to neutralize toxins, and biological processors where specially engineered bacteria break down harmful compounds. What emerges is a sterile, nutrient-rich growing medium that's actually superior to natural soil. The crop selection tells the story of our adaptation. Wheat and corn are relics of the past, too resource-intensive for our world. Instead, I see quinoa that's been modified to produce twice the protein in half the time. Amaranth that grows in spirals, maximizing vertical space. Sweet potatoes engineered to store more calories per gram than any natural variety. But the real stars are the mushrooms. An entire floor is dedicated to fungiculture. In the dim light, I can see oyster mushrooms cascading like waterfalls from vertical growing bags. Shiitake clusters on synthetic logs made from compressed agricultural waste. Lion's mane growing in patterns that look more like art than agriculture. Mushrooms thrive in our new world. They need no light, minimal water, and they can digest almost any organic material. Marcus tells me they're producing 40 kilograms per square meter per month. That's enough protein to feed a person for half a year from a space the size of a closet. The water systems here are poetry in motion. Everything is recirculated, but it's not just about conservation, it's about optimization. Each drop of water carries precisely calculated nutrients. pH levels monitored to 3 decimal places. Electrical conductivity measured continuously. The plants don't just grow in water, they grow in a carefully orchestrated chemical symphony. I watch a technician adjusting nutrient levels on a tomato tower. These aren't the tomatoes of the old world. They're smaller, denser, bred for nutrition over size. Each plant produces continuously new flowers forming while fruits ripen at different stages. In the old world, we grew tomatoes for 4 months a year. Here, harvest never stops. The integrated pest management is fascinating. Without the ability to spray chemicals in a sealed environment, they've had to get creative. Beneficial insects patrol the growing areas. Tiny predatory mites hunt spider mites. Parasitic wasps keep aphid populations in check. It's an ecosystem in miniature, balanced on a knife's edge. But sometimes the old methods are best. Marcus shows me a section where an elderly woman is hand-pollinating squash blossoms with a small brush. The wind that once carried pollen now carries only death, so human hands must do what nature no longer can. She works with the patience of someone who understands that each successful pollination means food for her grandchildren. The genetic modifications they're using would have been controversial in the old world. Here, they're survival. I see rice that grows in 1/3 the water, produces twice the grain, and has been enhanced with vitamins that our limited diet lacks. The moral debates about GMOs seem quaint when the alternative is starvation. The processing area is equally impressive. Nothing is wasted here. Crop residues become growing medium for mushrooms. Mushroom waste feeds black soldier fly larvae, which become protein supplements. The fly waste returns to the substrate production. It's a closed loop that would make nature herself proud. Marcus takes me to their seed vault. This is the true treasure of the complex, temperature controlled to extend viability for decades. Every variety they grow, plus hundreds they're still experimenting with. Each seed is cataloged, its genetics mapped, its potential calculated. They're not just growing food, they're preserving the future. The research section shows what that future might look like. I see prototypes for aeroponic systems that use 90% less water than even their current hydroponics. Plants growing in precisely controlled mists, their roots extracting nutrients from air. It seems like magic, but it's just science pushed to its limits. They're also working on what they call dust cultivation. Plants that can actually grow in diluted dust solutions, extracting nutrients from the very thing that's killing the outside world. The specimens look alien, with thick, waxy leaves and extensive root systems. But they're alive, growing. The social structure of the greenhouse complexes is worth noting. These aren't corporate farms or government operations. They're cooperatives, run by the people who work them. Every decision is made collectively, from crop selection to resource allocation. It has to be this way. When everyone's survival depends on the harvest, everyone has a stake in success. The knowledge sharing between complexes is remarkable. Every innovation, every failure, every tiny optimization gets broadcast to the network. A breakthrough in Beijing benefits Baltimore within hours. A disease outbreak in Delhi leads to preventive measures in Denver the same day. Competition is a luxury we can no longer afford. The children's education program here gives me particular hope. Kids as young as 5 learn to tend plants, understanding the delicate balance of nutrients, water, and light. By 10, they can diagnose deficiencies, adjust pH, and calculate optimal planting densities. They're growing up to be intuitive farmers in a way that would have taken decades of experience in the old world. But it's not all technical education. They also learn the why behind the how, the history of agriculture, the poetry of growth, the philosophy of working with rather than against nature. Even in our sealed worlds, they understand they're part of something larger. The energy systems deserve mention. The greenhouse complexes are power positive, generating more than they consume. Wind turbines designed to survive the storms provide baseline power. But they've also developed piezoelectric systems that convert the vibrations from wind impact into electricity. The very storms that threaten us now power our survival. The psychological benefits of these spaces can't be overstated. In a world of brown and gray, the green of growing plants is medicine for the soul. People volunteer for extra shifts just to be around living things. Some settlements have designated mental health gardens where people can sit among plants, remembering what the world used to be, hoping for what it might become again. Marcus shows me their pride and joy, a dwarf apple tree. It's only 2 meters tall but covered in small, perfect fruit. It took them 3 years to get it to fruit in artificial conditions. The apples are the size of golf balls, but when he hands me one to taste, it's the sweetest thing I've eaten in years. Not just because of the sugars, but because of what it represents. The future of food isn't about returning to the vast fields of grain that once fed the world. It's about intensity, efficiency, and adaptation. Every square meter producing maximum nutrition. Every drop of water carrying precisely what's needed. Every person understanding how to coax life from seeming sterility. As I prepare to leave, Marcus takes me to an observation deck. Through the reinforced windows, we can see the dust streaming past, the same killing dust that's buried the old world. But inside, life persists, grows, thrives even. It's a reminder that humans are remarkably adaptable when we apply our ingenuity to survival rather than destruction. The decontamination process in reverse feels like leaving one world for another. The green smells fade, replaced by the omnipresent dust. But I carry something with me. The knowledge that behind these fortress walls, a new form of agriculture is emerging. One that doesn't fight the new world, but works within its constraints. The dust farmers aren't trying to feed the world the way we once did. They're feeding their communities, one harvest at a time, one innovation at a time. They're proving that even in the harshest conditions, life finds a way. Not the old way, but a new way, adapted to our dust-shrouded world. As I make my way back to my broadcast station, fighting the tailwinds of Catherine's Passage, I think about those spiral towers of green, about mushrooms cascading in the darkness, about children learning to pollinate by hand what wind once did freely. It's not the agriculture our ancestors would recognize, but it's keeping us alive. More than that, it's keeping us human. The act of growing food, of nurturing life, connects us to every generation that came before. The methods have changed, the crops have changed, even we have changed. But that fundamental relationship between human and plant continues, sealed away from the killing winds, but stronger for the sealing. This is Elian Rowe, broadcasting from the dust. Tomorrow I'll tell you about the storm riders, those brave souls who venture into the tempest to keep our scattered settlements connected. But tonight, as you seal your homes against the wind, remember the green growing in the darkness. Remember that adaptation isn't surrender, it's survival made beautiful. Stay safe in the storm, friends, until tomorrow. This is Elian Rowe on 91.1 FM, and today I want to tell you about the bravest people I know. They call themselves storm riders, though that name doesn't capture the full magnitude of what they do. They're the ones who venture out when the rest of us seal ourselves in. They're the lifelines between settlements, the rescuers of the lost, the navigators of the impossible. I'm broadcasting from Relay Station 7 today, one of the critical communication nodes that the storm riders maintain. Getting here required riding with Anna Kozlov, possibly the most skilled storm rider in the Northern Hemisphere. The journey taught me more about survival in our dust-choked world than years of observation from behind sealed windows. Anna's crawler sits outside the station now, its hull scarred by thousands of hours in the storms. If vehicles could earn medals, hers would be covered in them. The crawler doesn't look like any vehicle from the old world. Imagine a submarine designed for land, built to move through dust as dense as water. 6 meters long, 2 meters wide, riding on tracks instead of wheels because wheels would just dig themselves into graves in the deep dust drifts. The engineering that goes into these machines is extraordinary. The hull is a composite of graphene layers and ceramic plates, designed to flex slightly under impact rather than crack. Every surface is curved to deflect wind and particles. There are no right angles on a crawler, no flat surfaces for the storm to grab. Even the track guards are aerodynamically shaped, creating vortexes that actually help clear dust from the running gear. But it's the navigation systems that truly impress. GPS died with the satellites, unable to penetrate the permanent dust layer that shrouds our upper atmosphere. Instead, storm riders navigate by what Anna calls the ancient ways made new. Inertial guidance systems track every movement from a known starting point. Ground-penetrating radar reveals the bedrock beneath the dust, creating maps of the invisible landscape below. Anna showed me her navigation console before we left. It looks more like a musician's soundboard than a vehicle dashboard. She navigates as much by sound as by sight. Every terrain type creates different harmonics as the crawler moves over it. Bedrock sings one song, compressed dust another, buried structures yet another. She can tell by listening whether she's over what used to be asphalt or concrete, soil or sand. The storm riders have developed their own language of survival. When visibility drops to zero, which is often, they navigate by what they call the Braille method. The crawler extends sensor arms that feel the density of dust ahead, mapping the invisible world through touch. They've learned to read the storm's moods through pressure drops, electromagnetic fluctuations, and subtle changes in the dust's behavior. The journey to Relay Station 7 normally takes 4 hours in calm conditions. We don't have calm conditions. We have a Class 3 dust river flowing west to east at 140 kilometers per hour, with embedded vortexes that can flip a crawler if you hit them wrong. Anna reads these dangers like a river pilot reads rapids, adjusting course by instinct as much as instrument. Inside the crawler, it's surprisingly quiet. The hull is designed to dampen sound, turning the external roar into a distant rumble. The seats are gimbaled, staying level as the vehicle climbs and descends invisible dunes. Everything is secured with multiple redundancies. In a rollover, which Anna assures me she's experienced 12 times, nothing becomes a projectile. The life support systems in a crawler are more sophisticated than many settlements. Triple redundant air filtration, positive pressure throughout, emergency oxygen for 48 hours. The water recycling system can process urine into drinking water in 30 minutes. It has to. Sometimes storm riders get trapped for days, waiting for conditions that allow movement. Anna tells me about her longest entrapment. 9 days, pinned against a buried building by a stationary vortex. She survived on minimal rations, recycled water, and the kind of patience that only storm riders develop. She spent the time mapping the vortex's behavior, data that later helped 3 other crawlers avoid the same trap. The cargo hold of Anna's crawler is a carefully organized pharmacy and hardware store combined. Medical supplies that can't be manufactured in the settlements, replacement parts for critical systems, seeds for the greenhouse complexes, and sometimes, most importantly, people. Those who need evacuation, specialists moving between settlements, or the rare refugees from failed communities. The economics of storm riding are unique. They don't work for money in any traditional sense. They work for maintenance, supplies, and the right to rest in any settlement they reach. A storm rider's crawler is their life, and keeping it running requires constant support from the communities they serve. It's a symbiotic relationship born of necessity. But it's not just about transportation. Storm riders are the eyes and ears of our scattered civilization. They map changes in the storm patterns, identify new hazards, discover resources buried by the dust. Anna shows me her discovery log. 3 intact solar farms buried but salvageable. A warehouse full of preserved food, sealed by chance when the building collapsed. A spring still flowing clean water beneath meters of dust. The training to become a storm rider takes years. You start as a navigator, learning to read instruments and storms from the safety of the passenger seat. Then you graduate to short runs, always with an experienced rider. Most wash out when they experience their first whiteout, when the dust becomes so thick that light itself seems to stop working. Those who continue develop what Anna calls storm sense. It's partly learned skill, partly intuition, partly a psychological adaptation to constant danger. Storm riders can feel pressure changes in their sinuses that predict wind shifts. They develop peripheral vision adapted to catching movement in near-zero visibility. Some claim they can smell different types of storms approaching. The physical toll is significant. Every storm rider I've met has the same weathered look, skin aged prematurely by stress and occasional exposure. They all have the dust cough, despite the best filtration. Many develop joint problems from the constant vibration, but they wouldn't trade it for anything. As Anna puts it, someone has to keep the world connected. The rescue operations are perhaps the most dramatic part of their work. someone gets caught outside during a storm surge, storm riders are the only hope. Ana's rescued 43 people over her career. She remembers each one, can tell you exactly where she found them and what condition they were in. The successful rescues justify the dangerous life. But not all rescues succeed. Storm riders also recover bodies, bringing closure to families and valuable equipment back to settlements. They mark these locations with ultrasonic beacons, creating a map of tragedy that also serves as warnings for future travelers. Every storm rider carries the weight of the ones they couldn't save. The technology continues to evolve. New crawler designs incorporate lessons learned from thousands of hours in the storms. Articulated vehicles that can bend around obstacles, experimental hover systems that ride above the worst dust, even talks of tunneling crawlers that would move beneath the storm entirely. But for now, the traditional crawlers and their brave pilots keep us connected. The communication network the storm riders maintain is crucial. Relay Station 7, where I'm broadcasting from now, is one of hundreds scattered across the continent. Each one requires regular maintenance, replacement parts, and occasionally complete rebuilds after storm damage. Without the storm riders, these stations would fall silent, and our settlements would become truly isolated. Inside the relay station, banks of equipment hum with purpose. Signal amplifiers, frequency converters, backup power systems, everything duplicated or triplicated because failure isn't an option. The storm riders don't just deliver supplies here. They perform maintenance, update software, and most importantly, share information gathered from their roads. The cultural impact of storm riders goes beyond their practical contributions. They've become our mythology, our heroes in a world that desperately needs them. Children play storm rider games, navigating imaginary routes through their sealed habitats. Adults whisper stories of legendary riders who found impossible paths through impossible storms. But Anna dismisses the heroic narrative. To her, it's just work that needs doing. She shows me her route planning for the next month. 17 settlements to visit, 4 relay stations to maintain, 2 possible rescue operations for teams attempting to reach a newly discovered resource cache. Each route carefully calculated for fuel efficiency, storm windows, and cargo priorities. The storm riders have developed their own culture, their own codes. They never pass another crawler without stopping to exchange information. They maintain emergency caches at precise coordinates, marked by codes only they understand. They've created a parallel infrastructure, invisible to those who stay safely sealed inside. The marriage customs among storm riders are particularly interesting. Many partner with other riders, the only people who truly understand the life. Their ceremonies happen at convergence points, rare locations where multiple routes cross. The vows include promises to search for each other if either goes missing, to maintain each other's crawlers, to carry on routes if one can no longer ride. Some storm riders work in pairs, especially on the most dangerous routes. A driver and a navigator, switching roles to prevent fatigue. These partnerships develop an almost telepathic communication, reading each other's intentions through tiny gestures when voice communication becomes impossible in the worst storms. The psychological profile of a successful storm rider is unique. They need to be comfortable with both extreme danger and extreme isolation. They must make split-second decisions with life or death consequences while maintaining the patience to wait out storms for days. It's a contradiction that few can balance. Anna shares her coping mechanisms. She collects music from every settlement, building a library of humanity's ongoing creative output. During long transits, she listens to everything from classical symphonies recorded in underground concert halls to new compositions that incorporate the storms themselves. It keeps her connected to the humanity she serves. The future of storm riding is evolving with our understanding of the storms. Predictive modeling gets better each year, allowing for more efficient routing. New materials promise crawlers that can withstand even greater punishment. There's talk of establishing permanent routes with hardened guide cables, allowing travel even in zero visibility. But for now, it remains a profession of individuals facing the storm with skill, technology, and courage. As I prepare to leave Relay Station 7, Anna is already planning her next route. 3 settlements desperately need medical supplies. Another has excess food to trade. A 5th has reported equipment failures in their water processing plant. She'll leave at dawn, catching the brief lull between Catherine's passage and the arrival of the system we're calling Marcus. 6 hours to cover 300 kilometers, loaded with cargo that means life or death for hundreds of people. Just another day for a storm rider. The crawler's engines are warming up now, their distinctive harmonic cutting through the background roar. Anna runs through her pre-departure checklist with the mechanical precision of someone who knows that forgetting one item could be fatal. Seal integrity, pressure differentials, navigation calibration, emergency beacon test. Each system verified, each backup confirmed. Before she leaves, Anna gives me a small device. It's an emergency beacon, keyed to storm rider frequencies. If I ever get caught outside, if my settlement ever fails, this beacon might bring rescue. It's a reminder that we're all connected by these brave souls who refuse to let the storms isolate us. Watching her crawler disappear into the dust is like watching a ship sail into fog. One moment it's there, solid and reassuring. The next, it's swallowed by the brown wall of particles that defines our world. Only the ground vibration of its passage proves it was ever here at all. When you hear the storms howling, remember that somewhere out there, a storm rider is navigating through the impossible, keeping our scattered civilization connected. Stay safe, stay sealed, and remember, we're never as alone as the storms want us to believe. This is Ilian Rowe on 91.1 FM, broadcasting from New Haven Colony, where 10,000 souls live in what might be the most perfectly sealed environment on our dust-ravaged planet. Today, I want to tell you about the seal makers, the engineers and innovators who've turned the art of keeping dust out into a science that's keeping humanity alive. I'm standing in the entry chamber of New Haven's primary research facility, watching Dr. William Foster demonstrate their latest innovation. He holds up what looks like a simple rubber gasket, the kind that might have sealed a refrigerator door in the old world. But this is no ordinary material. As he exposes it to dust, something remarkable happens. The seal actually swells, becoming tighter, more impermeable. The more dust it encounters, the stronger it becomes. William explains the science with the enthusiasm of someone who's found purpose in our harsh new world. The seal is actually alive, in a sense. It's infused with engineered bacteria that feed on the minerals in dust. As they consume these particles, they excrete a binding compound that reinforces the seal's structure. Its evolution accelerated, directed, and put to work, keeping us alive. The journey to this innovation began 3 years ago, when traditional seals started failing faster than they could be replaced. The constant abrasion, the pressure differentials, the chemical interactions with dust from around the globe, it all combined to destroy conventional materials in weeks instead of years. Something new was needed, something that worked with the hostile environment rather than against it. Walking through New Haven, you can see the evolution of sealing technology written in the architecture. The oldest sections built in the early days of the storms show traditional approaches: rubber gaskets, foam strips, caulking compounds. These areas require constant maintenance, daily inspections, frequent replacements. The residents joke darkly that they spend more time maintaining seals than sleeping. But as we move toward newer sections, the changes become apparent. Every door frame incorporates multiple defense layers. First, the electromagnetic field generators. William shows me how they work. Invisible curtains of charged particles that repel up to 90% of dust before it ever reaches a physical barrier. The power draw is minimal, the effectiveness remarkable. The electromagnetic barriers were discovered almost by accident. A technician noticed that dust patterns around electrical equipment showed clear zones where particles wouldn't settle. Investigation revealed that oscillating magnetic fields could manipulate the charged particles that make up most of our atmospheric dust. Now every entrance, every ventilation port, every potential breach point has its own field generator. But electromagnetic barriers alone aren't enough. For the dust that gets through, New Haven employs what they call progressive filtration. The air doesn't just pass through one filter, but through a series of increasingly fine barriers. Cyclonic separators spin out the heavy particles. Electrostatic precipitators grab the medium-sized ones. Finally, the biofilters handle anything smaller than 2 micrometers. The biofilters are another marvel of adaptation. Traditional HEPA filters clog quickly in our dusty world, but these living filters actually digest particles, breaking them down into harmless components. The filter medium is a carefully maintained colony of bacteria and fungi, selected for their ability to consume specific toxins and particles. They turn deadly dust into nutrients, which feed the filters themselves. William takes me to see the manufacturing facility where they produce their smart seals. It's more like a biology lab than a factory. Vast tanks culture the specialized bacteria. Precision extruders blend them with polymer compounds. Quality control involves microscopes and petri dishes, alongside pressure gauges and stress tests. The applications go far beyond door seals. Every surface in New Haven that faces the outside world incorporates some form of intelligent protection. Windows use a liquid crystal layer that can detect microfractures and flow to fill them before they become breaches. Wall coatings incorporate the same bacterial technology, creating surfaces that self-heal from abrasion damage. The windows themselves represent years of innovation, triple layered, with each layer serving a specific purpose. The outer layer is sacrificial, designed to be replaced as the storms grind it down. But even this replacement has been optimized. The layer isn't a single sheet, but a rolled film that automatically advances as sections become too abraded, like a giant roll of transparent tape protecting the permanent windows beneath. The middle window layer contains the active defenses, electrostatically charged to repel particles, heated to prevent dust adhesion, and incorporating nanoscale vibrators that shake off any accumulation. The inner layer is the last defense, made from transparent aluminum that could withstand a direct impact from debris carried at storm speeds. But perhaps the most impressive innovation is in the pressure management systems. Every building in New Haven maintains positive pressure, constantly pushing filtered air outward. This prevents dust infiltration through any microscopic gaps. But unlike early systems that simply pumped air continuously, these smart systems respond to conditions. William shows me the control room, where technicians monitor pressure throughout the colony. Thousands of sensors track differentials down to fractions of a pascal. When the storms surge, the system automatically increases pressure in affected areas. When they calm, it reduces flow to conserve energy. It's like the entire colony is breathing in rhythm with the storms. The development of these systems required rethinking everything we knew about building science. In the old world, buildings needed to breathe, to exchange air with the outside. Now they need to be hermetic environments, completely isolated from the toxic atmosphere. This created challenges no architect had ever faced before. Humidity control became critical. Sealed environments trap moisture from human activity. Without proper management, condensation would create breeding grounds for mold and bacteria. New Haven's systems continuously monitor and adjust humidity, extracting excess moisture and recycling it through the water treatment plants. Nothing is wasted. Everything is interconnected. The social structure of the seal makers reflects their critical importance. They're not just maintenance workers, but highly trained specialists. Each one understands fluid dynamics, materials science, and biological systems. They're engineers, biologists, and craftspeople combined. The apprenticeship program takes 3 years minimum, and the dropout rate is high. But those who complete the training become guardians of survival. They work in teams, each responsible for specific sectors of the colony. They know every seal, every filter, every potential weak point in their domain. Their daily inspections are rituals of preservation, catching problems before they become catastrophes. They're also working on portable sealing technologies, emergency shelters that can create habitable space in minutes, personal protection that goes beyond masks and suits to create individual clean air environments. The goal is to make the technology so accessible that no one dies from dust exposure, regardless of their settlement's resources. The philosophical implications of their work run deep. The seal makers aren't just keeping dust out, they're defining what it means to live in a hostile world. They're creating the boundaries between human space and natural space, deciding where one ends and the other begins. In a sense, they're the architects of our new relationship with the planet. As my visit to New Haven concludes, I watch the evening seal check. Hundreds of specialists fan out through the colony, instruments in hand, checking every barrier, every filter, every protective system. It's a ritual as old as the storms themselves, but refined by years of experience and innovation. The colony breathes safely because of their vigilance. The storms outside continue their assault, dust flowing like deadly rivers through the air. But inside New Haven, 10,000 people live, work, love, and dream, protected by barriers that grow stronger with each attack. It's a testament to human ingenuity, to our ability to transform even the most hostile conditions into livable space. This is Elian Rowe, broadcasting from behind the most advanced seals on the planet. Stay sealed, stay safe, and remember, every barrier between you and the storm was designed by someone who refused to surrender to the dust.